All right, today we are diving into a really powerful idea from Peter Holland's book, The 80-20 Learner. Now, the promise here is pretty huge. How can you get way more done, learn things faster, and achieve more by actually doing less? Sounds pretty good, right? Let's get into it. We live in this age of just infinite information. There's always another book to read, another course to take, another skill to master. That watch later list on YouTube, it's probably a mile long, and it can all feel pretty overwhelming. I mean, be honest. Have you ever felt that? That little bit of anxiety, that nagging feeling that no matter how hard you work or how fast you go, you're just constantly falling behind in this never-ending race to know more? So what do? We try to work harder. We put in more hours. We try to cram more stuff into our brains. And what's the result? We just end up exhausted. But what if the answer isn't to work harder? What if there's a fundamentally smarter way to approach all of this? Well, the solution isn't some brand new app or some crazy biohack. It's actually a principle that's over 100 years old. It's a kind of magic rule that was discovered by an Italian economist, and it's basically the secret weapon that the world's most effective people use. So the story goes, it all started with this guy, Vilfredo Pareto. He was looking at land ownership in Italy and noticed something really weird. 80% of the land was owned by just 20% of the people. Okay, interesting. But then he saw the exact same 80-20 split in his own garden. 80% of the peas were coming from just 20% of his pea pods. That's when he knew he was onto something big. And this is what he discovered, visualized perfectly. Life isn't a 50-50 deal. It's fundamentally imbalanced. A tiny fraction of what we do, the cause, the effort, is responsible for the vast majority of our results, the effects. And once you start looking for this pattern, you see it literally everywhere. In business, 80% of your sales probably come from 20% of your customers. In society, a small number of problems cause most of the complaints. But think about that last one. In any language, you only need about 2 to 3% of the words to understand 80% of daily conversations. That's huge. So here's the big idea. Life can be divided into two buckets. The vital few, that's the small number of things that have a massive impact, and the trivial many, all the other stuff that honestly doesn't really move the needle. And this insight is the key to unlocking how we learn. Okay, so this is all great in theory, right? But it raises the million-dollar question. If only 20% of what I could learn is going to give me 80% of the benefit, how on earth do I find that magical 20%? How do I spot the vital few? Well, Holland gives us a few really simple shortcuts. First, just ask an expert. Seriously, they've already spent a decade figuring out what matters. Second, pay attention to the language. What are the buzzwords and jargon that keep coming up over and over? Those are your clues. And third, and this is my favorite, find a cheat sheet. Chances are someone has already done the hard work of boiling down the topic for you. So, once you've zeroed in on your 20%, you still need a game plan to actually master it. And this is like the learning cheat code. Think about it like a hunter. The average person runs around the forest wasting energy chasing every single rabbit and squirrel. But the 80-20 learner, the smart hunter, scans the whole forest, identifies the biggest, most valuable target, and focuses all their energy on that one thing. It's about surgical precision, not brute force. So here's the framework. First, you take a big, intimidating skill, let's say learning to code, and you deconstruct it. You break it down into tiny, manageable pieces. Next, you find the bottleneck, the one single thing that's holding you back the most, and you drill down on that. Then, and this is key, you get fast feedback. You need to know instantly if you're doing it right or wrong. And finally, the best way to know if you've really learned something, try to teach it to someone else. And I can't stress this enough. This quote says it all. If you're practicing without feedback, you might just be getting really, really good at making the same mistake. A tight feedback loop, knowing right away if you've succeeded or failed, is the single greatest accelerator to learning anything. Now, what's really cool is that this 80-20 thinking isn't just for learning a skill or being more productive at work. You can take this exact same lens and apply it to your entire life to, well, just be happier. So, let's get personal for a minute. Just stop and really ask yourself this question. If you look at all the things you do, all the people you see, what's the 20% that's actually responsible for 80% of your joy? Because the truth is, a tiny fraction of the people in your life give you most of your happiness. A tiny fraction of your problems cause most of your stress. And a tiny fraction of your efforts are creating most of your actual results. The rest is just noise. So the game plan for your life becomes beautifully simple, though not always easy. Step 1, identify. Make 2 lists, what gives me joy and what causes me pain. Step 2, eliminate. Be ruthless in cutting out the stuff from that pain list. And step 3, amplify. Take the things that give you joy and double down on them. It's a strategic plan for a happier life. But, and this is a really important but, before we finish, there's one last crucial piece of wisdom from the book. You have to remember this. The point isn't to be a robot who is constantly calculating percentages. It's about the mindset. Sometimes the most meaningful parts of our lives are in that unproductive 80%. Just playing on the floor with your kids. That's not efficient, but it might be the most vital part of your whole day. The key is knowing when to optimize and when to just live. And really, that's what it all comes down to. This isn't just a productivity hack. It's a way of looking at the world to get more of what you truly want. So I'll leave you with this. What is the vital 20% that you need to focus on to create 80% of the life you really want to live?